Great to have Simon Banks, Peter McGauran, my regular panel on a Monday. And it's a big week, Peter, the last sitting week of 2024, maybe the last of the term.
Agreed, Kieran. And as things currently stand, I think the government's in real trouble. They're going to finish the parliamentary year with no great achievements to be able to point to, apart obviously from earlier on, the tax cuts and the energy subsidies. Kieran, the candidates will be going out in the field fairly soon, and you always face three things as a candidate. One is local media, the second is door knocking, and the third are candidate forums. And the first question they ask you when you're a sitting member of a government is, what have you done? So when you're a candidate in that situation, you need a track record you can point to, and you need a vision or an outline of what you're going to do in the future. And at this stage, people aren't going to believe Labor candidates that they're going to bring prosperity or reduction in the conflict in the cost of living if they haven't already done it.
Simon, there's so much of this comes down to, and I think we discussed it recently, but that division between what the coalition will say, are you better off than 3 years ago? And the government will want to make this a future election, saying we are working to make you better off 3 years from now. Does the government have enough to sell, as Peter was putting it there?
Well, I think the good news for the government is that it can point to those tax cuts. It can point to the electricity bill relief. It can point to relief around childcare, medicines, can point to the aged care reforms, which it's about to get through the Parliament as well, social media ban. I think there's plenty of good news that the government can talk about. And yes, Middle Australia is still under considerable economic stress, but this government's halved inflation. All the projections are that it's going to come down back into the Reserve Bank's band in the not too distant future, and hopefully interest rate cuts will come off the back of that. So I think the government actually will have plenty to talk about with the Australian people. And what's Peter Dutton going to say? I oppose most of it.
This is going to be part of the campaign, that targeting of Peter Dutton directly. And I know he's super experienced and he's been a successful politician over a long period of time. But the intensity of this period, Peter, will be like none other he's experienced.
Yeah, agreed, Kieran. Labor will go nuclear on Peter Dutton. What else do they really have that could reap such a windfall? But society is tense enough. People are sick of the hyperbole. People are cranky. It's a febrile atmosphere out there, and being negative may not work or penetrate as strongly as it has in past campaigns. And the Prime Minister's already beginning to waste this week with the Bali Five. There's no exchange treaty. These prisoner exchanges, even under treaties with other governments, are complicated. There's a waiting list in most countries where Australians are in prison, where we have a treaty, but you've got to get a state government to accept them because they run the prisons, and that's very hard. They are not laying out the welcome mat to large numbers of Australians seeking to return home to serve the rest of their sentences. And we don't have a treaty in Indonesia. So if it was going to be complicated, it's going to be even more complicated, particularly since we don't know what is the maximum time the Bali Five have to serve in prison, because a fundamental tenet of a prisoner exchange is they must serve out the prison date given to them by the country. That's non-negotiable.
Simon, that the point that Peter made there earlier was about that need for a positive vision. Is it important that the government maintains a positive message as well, that it's got that vision of things will be better over coming years?
Yeah, and of course, the centrepiece of that is the Future Made in Australia, which once again Peter Dutton opposes, and we're seeing that with his opposition, for example, to the hydrogen and critical minerals tax credits that are being brought into the Parliament today, which the mining sector broadly supports and desperately wants to make sure that Australia takes a leadership position. But Kieran, what did you just hear from Peter? Peter said people are sick of negative politics. The Labor Party and Albo goes to President Prabowo at the first available opportunity for the new Indonesian president, raises an issue that Prime Ministers since John Howard have raised with Indonesian presidents, and suddenly he's being criticised for it. I think that tells you everything about this coalition. It's just no, 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 no. They're the most negative opposition we've had. They don't have a plan for Australia's future, and I'm looking forward to that contest because Labor does, but Peter Dutton, just Mr Negative.
Simon Banks, Peter McGauran, gentlemen, great to see you both. I look forward to chatting next Monday.